I'd like to thank all the community leaders from the Asian American Pacific Islander community for joining us here today to hear from our wonderful Montgomery County Executive Marc Elrich about updates on issues impacting our fast-growing Asian American Pacific Islander community, particularly things like public safety, gun safety, COVID, and issues such as how we can assist small businesses, particularly Asian and minority-owned and women-owned businesses, and other critical issues that affect our growing community. We're so glad that we have County Executive always updating us and briefing us on the latest developments, because we're an essential and vibrant part of Montgomery County and Maryland. And very often we have not been able to be part of some of the briefings and the press conferences and just to know what's going on, particularly when it affects our community, particularly when it comes to things like racial profiling or hate crimes. We just experienced another hate crime in late June against one of our Asian Americans, Chinese American gentleman who was attacked and was kicked and spat on and called all sorts of terrible names. So violence against our community has not stopped. So it's always important that we partner with our county executive, particularly on, and myself on the state level, to ensure that our communities are safe, that we partner so that we can solve crimes and prosecute those crimes and stop them. Anyway, we're delighted to be here, all the top leaders of our Asian American Pacific Islander community, to hear from our wonderful county executive, Marc Elrich.
So thank you. So I want to start by talking about a couple of things. First, I want to thank everybody for being here today. I was asked to address a number of issues of concern for the Asian community, and I'm glad we're having the opportunity to do this. Fix the microphone, I just made it worse. There. So I want to start by talking about the recent incident where an Asian man, Shang Wang, was attacked at a McDonald's. And let me say how sorry I am that this happened. You know, we work hard to try to create a climate here in Montgomery County where this doesn't happen. But there are still people who harbor pretty dark views about society and about people in society, and we're not able to stop everything from happening. But I want to express my condolences to Mr. Wang and family, and also strong support for him. We stand with him, and we stand with the entire Asian community. It is unfortunate that we have to make these statements for different communities in this county over and over again to reassure people that the government stands with those communities, because these incidents keep happening over and over again. And so we're here. We want to make sure that people understand that we know what your concerns are. We're going to continue to work with you. Mr. Wang, told police he drove around the car that was just sitting in a drive-through lane at McDonald's in Rockville. The driver thought Mr. Wang cut in line and got angry. And, Mr. Wang had immigrated here from Taiwan 40 years ago. And he told police he got out of his car to confront the man. And after hearing him use several racial slurs before he actually got spat on. And Mr. Wang told local media he was afraid to fight back because he didn't want to be arrested. But he did the right thing because he reached out to police. And this is the message that we've been sending to the community. We cannot help you if you do not reach out. And if you endure these things and you endure them silently, it just facilitates people continuing to do these things, because if they feel they're not going to get reported and they feel the police aren't going to act, then it breeds a fear and concern about reaching out to the police. So I'm so happy that he reached out to us. The suspected attacker was identified because investigators were able to use the security video to identify him. And my staff reached out to Mr. Wang and checked on him after hearing about the incident. And we really have to continue to do whatever work we can to stop these kind of incidents, particularly against Asian Americans who were very unfairly targeted by a certain former president who attempted to turn the coronavirus into an ethnic issue rather than a medical issue. And that's been did a real disservice to the Asian community. And they've had to endure a lot of unnecessary pain because of that. But I just want to say, this county is better because of our diversity. We are stronger because everybody stands up for everybody else. I've been in, numerous meetings with interfaith leaders across all religions, sitting there to defend every religion. And it's not about I'm only concerned about my issues, but everybody is concerned about everybody else's issues. If one group isn't safe, then no group is safe. It can't be okay to go after one group of people and not think that everybody else isn't going to be ultimately affected by it. So I'm glad we were able to deal with this, and our police were able to successfully intervene at the end. And I'm glad he walked away from it, because getting into a fight would not necessarily have been productive and wouldn't have solved the problem and wouldn't have made him safer. And I think going to the police is what we ask people to do. So people should call police 911 for emergencies. And if it's not an emergency situation, like hate flyers, anti-Semitic graffiti, anti-Asian graffiti, then call the non-emergency number 301-279-8000, 301-279-8000 for non-emergencies. You can also report incidents to the Attorney General's Hate Crimes Hotline, which is 1-866-481-8361. So they have multiple avenues to reach out and get help. I also want to talk a little bit about security grants. The county last year, we put $700,000 into security grants. It was for religious groups and nonprofits who might be particularly susceptible to hate crimes or crimes by people who don't agree with what they're doing. And so we put $700,000 out last year. In this budget, we put out $800,000. We're going to continue to support. In Montgomery County, I think we were told we were the first jurisdiction to actually use grants for soft services such as police protection, rather than simply on cameras and fix things. And we all know that there's no better deterrent many times than having somebody quickly available around the building, or somebody who can respond. We have a serious problem with gun violence in this country, and this county is no exception. I want to thank Susan for your leadership in Annapolis on the ghost gun bill. The commitment to ending the ability of someone to get a gun online, and the only difference between the gun they get online and the gun they need a license for is you have to put it together. That is an amazing thing, that we allow somebody to buy a kit and get the video on how to assemble it and act like they're not buying a gun, but they're buying a kit. And anybody who actually went and bought the same gun would have to get a license. They'd have to go a background inspection. They'd have to go through a 7-day waiting period. And none of that applies if you buy it in kit form. And so we need some sensible legislation. Thank you very much for doing what we can do at the state level. But the federal government flat out needs to take the same positions on ghost guns as they do on anything. In the first place, you shouldn't be allowed to produce a ghost gun, because the ghost gun isn't just something you can assemble, it's something without a serial number. So you can't trace it. You don't know where that gun was bought. Any other gun a person buys, the manufacturer, the dealer, all that stuff gets registered. With the ghost gun, there is no registry of anything. And I also was dismayed at the recent Supreme Court ruling about allowing somebody to walk around with a concealed gun and making that easier. I can't imagine what anybody was thinking to think it would be a bright idea to have people walking around with guns. We have enough fights and we have enough violence in this society as it is, and the idea that without justification, you're not like you're delivering your store deposits to a bank at night and are concerned about being robbed, or that you're high profile, or you're a target of hate crimes. It is way different when anybody can just basically say, I want to get a concealed carry permit. The idea of people walking into bars with guns, or people who are in arguments with people in their community just to be able to walk around with guns, is just an invitation to more mayhem. And I thought most of us have kind of gotten fed up with the mayhem. The constant barrage of stories about gun violence are, I think, wearing on people. They are destabilizing people's sense of safety. And for the court to accelerate it rather than do things to decelerate it is just really alarming. And I wish Governor Hogan had actually not directed the state to start complying with the law, but forced the court to rule that we had to do it. It would buy us time, and we could figure out alternatives. But to capitulate to the Supreme Court on something as dangerous as this, I think was a serious mistake. I want to talk a little bit about COVID. First of all, your community played a big role in Montgomery County. In the beginning, we didn't have masks, we didn't have personal protective equipment. The masks we had were, frankly, not great. People were volunteering to sew masks for us. They're not like the masks people are mostly wearing now, N95s or hospital masks that offer a greater level of protection. And your community stepped up with many donations. I think the only places I went for a while were to receive donations of masks. There's a company up in, I guess, Germantown that actually bought a mask making machine and is making masks, and I was there. They actually set it up inside their existing factory and were producing masks and making them available to the community. So I often thank the Asian community for their ability to leverage their connections back home to see that we could get masks and other protective resources. And I know that people really protected it for us. We maintained a lot of frontline workers. Our police and fire was still frontline. There were other essential county services that stayed frontline. Being able to give those people a decent mask was really important because we knew we were asking people to do their jobs and put themselves in danger while they were doing it. So being able to at least have a clear conscience about having a mask that would work was really important. And I want to thank our residents, for having the highest vaccination rates in the country, and the Asian community, which kind of led Montgomery County in vaccination rates. And it was great that people understood why we were asking people to do this. And there was very little blowback. I think there's generally an acceptance of science in the community. There's a reverence for knowledge that sometimes isn't present in the United States. And there's a trust of knowledge and science in the community. And so when people said that it's necessary to wear masks, this community responded. When we said we need people to get vaccinated, this community responded. And that's helped all of us. And we know that if the rest of the country had followed Montgomery County's policies, we had 2/3 the death rates of the rest of the country. There were a lot of people who'd be alive today if people had been as cautious as we were going through this. So I just want to thank everybody for all of that work. I want to talk a little bit about small businesses because I know this is really important. The Asian community, participates in pretty much every aspect of Montgomery County life. I've run into people in the firms that are doing the, key vaccine research, and there are lots of Asian scientists working there. There are lots of Asian businessmen. You play a big role in the tech sector. So there are lots of places that you're active in the community. Montgomery County's created the business advancement team, and eventually they will grow to being present in all of our regional service centers so we can reach people at the local level, community level. They can distribute a wide array of grants. They run our county's incubators in Silver Spring, Rockville, and Germantown, which provides businesses the ability to grow. The incubators have had, really good success, particularly in the life sciences, and we're looking to build stronger incubators in the county. We want people to be able to come here and start businesses and grow. And with the expansion, we plan to engage even more proactively with our business community. You can find information on they're called BAT teams for short. So when I talk about BAT, I don't mean other bats, I mean the BAT teams. Information on BAT through our county website. But I also want to share with you that the county's innovation team, the website is being redesigned with input from a variety of small business owners to ensure it's more intuitive and helpful. I'll be the first person to say I think our websites are a little bit behind the times, and we're looking seriously at how to upgrade them and your feedback. And if you can't access that site, it's not useful to you. And so getting information from the business community about what in the site works and what in the site is obscure is really helpful to us, because we can't improve unless people tell us the extent to which we're not doing what we want to do. The BAT is also coordinating this round 4 of the COVID-19 hotel relief grant. So if you're in the hotel industry, there's more money being made available to hotels and lodging entities throughout Montgomery County. Applications are going to be accepted from July 1st through July 22nd, and there's an application on the Montgomery County Business Portal. And you can reach that at BizPortal, BIZPORTAL, at montgomerycountymd.gov. Or you can also contact the Small Business Navigator, Nadia Clute, at 240-777-2537, or our Business Liaison Officer, Daniel Caroma, at 240-777-3636. So you can reach us electronically and you can reach us by phone. We're here to help. We also have Community Liaison Yi Shin, who I know is here somewhere, and I'm sure all of you know him. He's not only focused on business, but he's familiar with them, but he's basically been our liaison into the community, and he serves a really great role, and I appreciate his work and his knowledge of the community. It's very helpful. In September and October, we anticipate a second round of American Rescue Plan, or ARPA grants, to support qualifying retail establishments with rental expenses of 3 months or $10,000 maximum. So if you have a deficit of 3 months or $10,000 in rent, we can help you with that, and we have an allocation of almost $2 million to do this with, so we can help a lot of companies. If there are people who need this, those will become available in September and October. And also in September, grant money that supports small business assistance is set to renew. So organizations like Fenton Village have expressed interest in applying to receiving funding through the new business districts. And we're going to be doing main streets. I think Silver Spring will be one of the first main streets we stand up. So we're trying to create a much more friendly and interactive small business environment in Montgomery County. We want to make sure that you can grow. We're well aware that for all the noise that's made about Fortune 500 companies, at the end of the day, the local small businesses provide more jobs than anybody else. And when we look at the shopping centers and the office buildings advertising 5,000 square feet for rent, or a center with an open storefront, that's not going to be filled by Lockheed Martin. It's going to be filled by people in our communities who want to open up businesses and establish themselves in the county. We want to do everything we can to make that possible. We also have other options for businesses, taking out microloans. These are small loans, but a lot of businesses just need a small loan. And the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation has a new loan program called ACE, Accelerating Community Excellence, which is meant to help eligible small businesses, especially in underserved communities. And the program will receive an initial allocation of $1.5 million in state funds to be distributed in loans to small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the county and throughout the state. And the CDFI, which is a Community Development Financial Information. I assume you want me occasionally to turn acronyms into words, so you know what I'm talking about. So the CDFIs have been distributing micro-grant loans for years, and we're increasing the number of business liaisons so we can do a better job of supporting businesses. So I just wanted to touch on these points. I know these are salient to the community, that a lot of people come to us asking for assistance or want to know what programs that are out there. And one of the things we learned during COVID is that you're better ambassadors in the community than we are. If all I did was do this press announcement and issue it, the odds of it being read by people is really slim. Doing things like this, which we learned during COVID, working with our community groups, you have much deeper reach in the community. Each of you are able to take this back to the side, the part of the community you're most active in, and share this kind of information so that it gets used. Government issuing edicts or announcements that people never read and never access don't really get much use. And so we're increasingly relying on your community and all the communities in Montgomery County to do that outreach so that we can be more effective. We want to provide it. We don't want to just talk about it. It's great to say you got a program. It's not good when the programs don't get used. So we want to make sure that you're knocking on the doors, asking for help, we're using the programs, and establishing the basis for needing more money in those programs. Because when the money gets used, we can point to additional need to expand those services. So I'm anxious to do that. The last thing I'll say is I think this county's done a lot of work reforming our permitting processes. If you're a business person and trying to open up a business and have to get your building approved, the attitude in our permitting department has gotten a lot better. They'll answer questions, they'll help you with pre-meetings, they try to help you solve problems rather than reject you and then tell you to come back and try again. We've really worked with everybody to change the mindset with which we use in the community. And hopefully you see that, but if you do encounter a problem, let us know. Right now we're working with PEPCO and WSSC to create ombudspersons that if, for example, if you have a permit that's stuck with either of those agencies, that they will give us a point of contact. And at least right now in PEPCO and in WSSC, we'll have a point of contact where we can connect people to somebody in the agency who can help if there's a problem. So we're doing everything we can to modernize ourselves and make ourselves more available to you, and happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm Mihir Jaiswal, voluntary journalist for India This Week, and one of the positive impact that I've seen is decrease in crime. I live in Silver Spring downtown, and so last year there was a lot of gun violence, a lot of crime. A couple of steps I saw is that there were big poles with the camera to deter the crime, and
Yeah.
a lot of those steps. Also, county started a new portal to provide feedback into police officers by the community.
Yes.
So my question is, what is the balancing act, right? How do you balance all this? Create more work. I know there's a challenge into hiring more police force, and at the same time maintaining the trust between the public and police. So
I like the way you frame that. I mean, and part of it is, reassuring the police that the things we're going to do are not going to make their lives more difficult. I mean, ultimately, we expect police to enforce the laws, and we need to make people safe. I think most residents, and particularly the last years in that created the police, that residents don't want police to disappear. What they do want is to make sure that all interactions between police and residents are respectful. And our department, over the years, very rarely found itself in the newspaper for things that they shouldn't have done, but occasionally the officers did. We've got to make those incidents fewer and fewer. And we also have to tell the story of the other side of what police do, which is help people. I had to give a little talk yesterday at the 100th anniversary of our police department. One of the things we pointed out is, the things you don't hear about are, delivering a baby, right? Pulling somebody from a car that's run off the road and catching on fire and getting that person out of there before the car is engulfed by flame. I talked to somebody in the fire department this morning who went into a burning building and he wasn't even called there. He just saw it and got one person out. I mean, people do things all the time that don't make headlines, and the things that make headlines are what are done by people, in their worst moments doing something they probably shouldn't have done. So we've got to make sure we tell all sides of the story. We can't get caught up in if something happens in Ohio, it doesn't mean it happened in Montgomery County, which is another thing that police labor with, is anytime anything goes wrong, people say the police. Is never, well, I can't say never. It is often not the police. It is individuals and departments. And we've got to deal with the individuals, not make every police officer feel that they're blamed for everything somebody does. We have to resource them. So we had the lowest paid police department in the region. I tried 2 years ago to raise their pay. The council wouldn't touch it. And we just didn't want to raise their pay. We knew that we were falling behind in recruitment and other people were going to other jurisdictions. Somebody else had signing bonuses. And we were the worst paid police department. And there wasn't any interest in moving it. And this year, I guess because of the politics of it all, people were willing to go forward and raise police pay. That's a good thing. But, you can't ask somebody to put their life on the line and simultaneously say we don't value you. So if I expect somebody to be willing to go into a burning car and pull somebody out, I also expect them to be decently compensated. Nobody should ever get to the point where you're wondering, why am I doing this if they don't respect me? So we have to work on our end at making sure they understand that they have to be properly supported. And the community has to, to see the good and the bad. The reporting stuff is going to make it easier for residents if they had something to report it. One of the big things that's changed is body cameras. And, frankly, in most cases, I think body cameras make behavior better because neither side can say something happened that didn't happen. Because if I want to know what happened, I just can roll the camera. And the camera is not something you can play with. So I think that helps assure both people. It makes officers more confident that they don't have to worry about somebody threatening to say, get your hands off me if you're not touching them. And at the same time, an officer knows that if they record what somebody's done, it's actual evidence. And I think people think about that. So I think we could move into a better place. We are trying to move into a better place, but our job is to keep people safe. And you don't want residents avoiding Silver Spring because they're afraid of crime, and that's not good. It's not good for the residents. It's not good for the businesses who make investments there. So we all have an obligation to make sure places are safe. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, questions?
Any?
Tim, do you have a question? Michelle?
Okay.
Green Press?
Thank you. I think County Executive for your valuable information.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for always getting us involved and letting us know. what's
We're
going on.
here to help. I've said this before, of all the representatives, nobody brings more people into my office than you do. It's
Yeah.
really true.
Yeah.
You represent the community
Yes.
and have a really good eye on what the impediments are. You make the connections between our policies, not just what you do in Annapolis, but issues here. And you've represented this community in a really outstanding way.
Thank you. It's a partnership.
Yeah, we are committed to support you.
I try to keep an open door,
Thank you.
which
And you
I hope
always
makes
have.
this easier.
You always have.
So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.